Yeah, welcome back to Global Connections. I'm Jay Fidell. We're going to talk again to Roopmati Khandekar, Dr. Roopmati Khandekar. She's an Indian, but she's in New York associated with the United Nations. And she's a researcher, an intellectual, an academic, and an author who's written a number of books. And so she brings a tremendous resource to us. And we'll discuss with her India's prosperity and its population. Okay, we're back. That's Dr. Roopmati Khandekar, and today we're gonna follow suit on all the news about India's status as being, or about to be as populous as China. What is there? What is happening, Roopmati? First of all, is that so? And when are we going to get there so that they're on a par? And the second question is, why? I mean, that's a lot of people. It's hard to manage 1.4 billion people. How did we get there?
Aloha, Jay. It's my honor and pleasure to be with you again. And I love it interacting with you. Always, always the best. So now if we see that if the 1990s was making the world look up and see what China is doing in terms of the success story, now the 21st century has seen India into a steadfast growth to become one of the drivers of economic growth. Now it's coming into the limelight, but we don't take into account that there have been decades behind this. So in 1991, when we took over globalization, there was not much of logistical planning. But after 2014, we see a lot of planning and infrastructure that has come in. And today, according to the World GDP ranking 2023, we see India ranked as the 5th largest economy after United States, China, Japan, Germany, and India. Now, Jay, it is noteworthy to see that India has overtaken its colonizer, the United Kingdom, which had taken away estimated $48 trillion over its 200 period of colonial rule. So you see the growth momentum that India has taken up, according to the world data, is around, according to the IMF, is around 5.9%, and China is at 5.8%, and the global average is 2.8. So we can see that India is a bright spot in the regressive world economy today, and we see that it will overtake Germany by 2026, according to the projections, and Japan by 2030. So it's poised to come into the top 3. Now, there are 3 reasons for this change. So now we talk about the demographic data.
Yeah, I want to examine with you, what are the factors here? What has made India so successful? Because, between year one and the 18th century, India had the biggest economy in the world. Of course, it wasn't so big, but it was the biggest. And then somewhere in the 18th century, we had colonialism. And as you say, Britain took a lot of things from India, but also left some things behind. And I said to you, yeah, I left democratic government behind. You said, no. It did not leave democratic government behind because India already had democratic government. Can you talk about that?
Yes, for sure, Jay. I'm not going to give them the credit for giving democracy to Indian values. Indians had organized system, society, law, justice, everything, will of the people, popular will of the people. We had kings who were voted, by will of the people. Now, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was a self-proclaimed king. So he's one of the biggest kings who self-proclaimed. Nobody stopped him. So that was a success story, ambition, and democracy, self-will at its best. So there was no, there was no anarchy before the British came in. It was a good rule of law which was followed. The saying that we brought in democracy in English words is by them because they bought the English language. But otherwise, we had tenets of justice, rule of law, everything in India. It was not savage. So that much I can tell you. We have Vedas, we have the books, we have the laws, we have the Manu Shastra, which is Arya Shastra, which has been written the years, eons ago. So that way. So lots of things before the British came. They can't claim that.
Well, some say that the British, I know bureaucracy is not necessarily a good word or a good thing, but they say that the Brits left behind a working bureaucracy in India, which helps, facilitate democracy. It helps facilitate economic growth and so forth. Is that a true statement? Is the bureaucracy a result of the, British colonialism?
Yeah, with the bureaucracy, they did leave behind a lot of corruption and,
I didn't mean that, but okay, because you're right, because bureaucracy is often, if not always,
yes,
corrupt.
yes, the layers that we have to pass through to get to decision making see, Jay, if we didn't have a society which was civilized before the British came in, democracy would not have worked. It has failed in countries like Pakistan, almost failing. It's failed in other countries. The experiment has not been true in all the countries. There have been dictatorships, everything. Why is it thriving in India? Because there's a sense of culture, there's a sense of justice which has been followed through the beginning of time. And India is an ancient civilization. There were structures which were before. They've come 200 years back. We had the Greeks come in. We had Greeks ruled us for 200 years. The Persians come in. So many countries which came and went. Each one took also, each one gave also. So the assimilation was both ways. It was never one way.
Mhm.
So that.
So what about religion? What about the Hindu religion, for example, which is I guess the majority religion in India? What contribution did it make? Has it made to the prosperity of India today?
The Hindu religion, Jay, it has been the majority religion and an ancient religion. It's a way of life. They say, like, if you say you want to, there were many colonizers, there were many invaders who wanted to destroy the Hindu culture, Hindu religion. But what do you destroy? When the devotion of a Hindu comes from within, it is not connected to any deity or idol. If you destroy the idol, if you destroy this temple, they will go and pray in the house. If you destroy, make them homeless, they will pray in the heart. But they have nothing connected to any structure. So it was all spiritual and mental, Jay. So that is the precise reason that they could not convert even by the sword. I mean, so many countries have turned the religion from Christianity to Islam, Islam to to Islam. But we had Islam Mughal rule in India for centuries, but they could not force the entire population. A few sections of population is acceptable because some do it for their own means, some do that for livelihood, but they could not convert mass populations to Hinduism, to Islam, because Hinduism prevails in such a way it adjusts to whatever situation is given, Jay. I mean, the
Yeah,
idea
I was going to suggest that one thing about India is that the culture, the people,
Hmm.
they're flexible, and
Yes, flexible, very flexible.
and so, for example, you have high tech, and the country of India has adopted high tech. The educational system has adopted it. The business, system has adopted it, and it is right at the top. And I suggest to you that one of the reasons that India is so successful now is because it has been flexible to
Yes,
adopt, may I say, Western technology. Am I right?
yes, absolutely right, Jay. I mean, you will see a person assimilating Western technology as easily into his routine life as it is another ritual. There is no barrier. And the quest for learning in Hinduism to adjust has been a hallmark of the Hindu religion in such a big way that it has always learned to adapt. Always learn to adapt. If you break this, they will go and make this. If you do this, they will do this. They find a way. That is a main reason for the survival. It's like jungle law, survival of the fittest. It's one of the fittest religion. That is also without any propagation and without any what is that? They don't. It's the only religion which has never spread through propagation.
Mm-hmm.
It has always been within.
So how was that focused on, for example, Mahatma Gandhi, who was a philosophical guy, and his philosophy was very popular. People accepted it all around the country. And in my observation, it had a huge effect on India's geopolitical influence and success at the time when he was there. But
Yes.
what does he represent? Something out of Indian culture that has made it so successful?
Mahatma Gandhi was one of the biggest names in the Indian freedom struggle, along with many others. His way of fighting the British was through non-violence and through, you don't retaliate. You bear it till the person who's oppressing you feels the pain and then leaves you. And there were many other revolutionaries in our Indian freedom struggle which thought that direct action is the way to go for the Indian freedom struggle. So we had two conflicting thoughts which adjusted itself through the Indian national movement. But Gandhi's way of life prevailed because his party, the Indian Congress, they got through, and his choice of prime minister was given against the choice of the other members. So it's a long story, but he was a Hindu, and he brought in ancient principles like non-violence and what is that? You have to self-sufficiency, and I think those are few of the points which Mr. Modi is using very well in his rule. That he is tolerant, but he is portrayed as being very harsh. So that is the not in tandem.
And before we leave him, Narendra Modi, is he a significant a factor in India's current prosperity, in the fact that it's number 5 in world economy?
That's what I wanted to talk to you about, Jay. That the Indian demography has changed to 1.428 billion people, and China is 1.425 billion. Okay, by mid-year we'll overtake China. So 3 reasons India has that we are an economic force today. The Indian population, the young force. Now this population brings in a lot of young potential working force. Japan is suffering because of the declining growth rate.
Yeah.
But India has the advantage of a working potential young population.
So what's the average population? We're talking about 25, average age 25 or less?
Yes. It is, I think, 28 or something like that. So, and the second main reason is the major, big, hefty consumer spending section of India. We have a middle class population, Jay. It's a demand-driven growth which takes place in India. You have people earning and spending also that much. So this spending is attracting the manufacturers from all over. Now, an example of this manufacturer is Apple. Apple was manufacturing 100% in China. But from April 5th, 2022 to December 2022, they came into India and started their manufacturing. They have exported around $2.5 billion of Apple goods. So
why did they come to India? Because that's a big move.
Third main reason why we are having this manufacturing come in is the government policies, the logistical support that the government is given. When Mr. Modi took over office, India was growing at the rate of only 3%. 3.1%. Today, we are growing at 6%. I mean, double it. In 9 years, in 10 years of his rule, we are growing double. There are targets set, it's achieved. He is putting his stress on infrastructure development. He's putting stress on, logistical support for the manufacturing units. He's brought in the UPI system. Jay, do you know the UPI system? It's a digital payment system which Mr. Modi has brought in, and you can even send money to the cent on your mobile without any charge, without anything. And India has become the largest user of UPI. That is, you can just make a digital payment through your device. You can pay for vegetables, you can pay for change, you can pay for your food. And Indian market has soaked it up. They are just using it like anything. I mean, it's one of the biggest success stories that Mr. Modi has brought in is the digital payments. No credit cards.
Yeah, before it was all cash. I remember you and I talked about it. If you have only cash, you can't do a lot of business. But if you automate it that way, you can do much more business. And the other thing that strikes me, and I remember that this kind of payment system, you walk up, you want to buy a newspaper, bing, you got the newspaper.
Yes.
But there's more than that, because India has got freedom of speech. Which to me has to be a factor in all of this. And freedom of speech is expressed on the internet, which India definitely has. So can you talk about that for a minute? How do freedom of speech and freedom of speech on the internet help India become more prosperous?
CJ, Mr. Modi brought in a digital revolution because he made data available cheaper to the Indian mass. Fast, reliable data availability, got connectivity for Indians to the globe and within India. So with the digital power in your hands, you can do all these transactions. If there was no data available to me, how do you think I would have made the transaction? But the data connectivity that he has bought in, cheaper than, I think, 15 rupees is how much? Less than 1 cent, 1 GB of data. So that brought the villages, masses connected to everything. So digital technology does play a big role in bringing up a country's productivity value. So when he bought the digital, he developed infrastructure to match that. Because if you have manufacturing units coming in and nothing to show them, or they don't have the logistical support from the government or the policies to come in, they would never have come.
Yeah.
So
that's got to be a big factor.
Yes.
The other thing is, we have a show that deals with Latin America, and in the country of Colombia, which has had problems in what do I call it, consolidating rural areas within the power of the government. The consensus now is, if you want to have better federalism, better central control from the government and from the economy, you have to build infrastructure. Okay, and I look at the web this morning, and there was an article about a bridge, a railway bridge that Mr. Modi has built. He just finished it recently, and it's taller than the Empire State Building. This is a major bridge, and the idea is part of an initiative to build infrastructure around India so that you could reach rural areas or difficult to reach areas by rail and truck and what have you. And this is also part of his philosophy to bring the country together. Is this discussed? Is this known?
Yes.
Is this happening?
Very much so, Jay. You remember I told you that the previous government had made a policy that if we keep the areas along our borders underdeveloped, that the other country will not want it. That was announced in the parliament. And Mr. Modi did the exact opposite. He developed the areas, and today even the most remote villages do have running tap water. They have connectivity, and because of that, they feel more Indian, I told you. And now the roads, the highest bridge that you're talking of, we can reach logistical support and armament support to our border areas within a few hours. Earlier, it would have taken 2-3 days. Now we have on hours, that if something happens, we reach over there. And Jay, there is one big development that he's done. He's built highways which can be used as runways for the flights. So you see, he is thinking in terms of multitasking in infrastructure. When you want to do emergency takeoffs in wartime or anything, he's built such roads which can be used for that. So, I mean, his concept of infrastructure development has reached almost every Indian. And I don't know if a few days back, if you heard, he has got this program known as Man Ki Baat on radio, in which he connects to people on the radio. Now, radio, why he is used one program every week or every month he does. Villages, Jay, rural villages, they connect with him. So he is fighting a pan India democracy election. So he knows how to connect with the people. He has connectivity with masses. And Jay, make no mistake about this, that 1/4 of the world's poor live in India. Poverty is in India, but poverty reduction has been at the highest rate in India since he's taken. So uh, he is developing the rural, the poor, the marginalized. He's bringing them into the mainstream.
Well, when you talk about the internet and you talk about the sort of the digital community, you're also talking about capital, right? You're talking about capital that can be concentrated within India, where some people can achieve huge capital and do huge business projects. And in fact, I think I read that India has more billionaires than any other country in the world in straight numbers, more billionaires. And that means that, they're able to raise the money. But there's also, the notion that they are investing elsewhere, like in the United States, and the notion that the United States and other countries are investing in India because they see these things as promising. Everybody wants to get in on the world's fifth largest economy. Everybody wants that. So what is it in the culture, the family structure? Because, if you want to raise money, the easiest way is to go to your uncle or your cousin. and it goes from there. And if you have a strong family structure, you can raise money, at least on the smaller level, very easily. And from smaller, you can go larger. Can you talk to me about the view and the dynamic on raising capital in India?
Yeah, Jay, earlier it was like this, that you could go to your family and ask for money. But I think the new world is such that everybody wants to make and keep their own money. So the economic resilience that India has shown, you see the stock market is one big factor. Indian stock market investors are huge, and they do invest in the Nifty, the US markets and everything. So this kind of fundraising that happens is very personal, Jay. They go for personal fund building in the minimum wages or minimum excess of the wages. They invest. They invest in government securities of fixed deposits, which earn them around 7%. In the US, here it is 4%. But in India, it is 7%. You have investment in government schemes, government bonds, which give you a steady income, a short income of 7%. And then they have a speculative income, which they use in stocks, which they use in these currencies, which they give a higher return, but higher risk also. So this kind of now the government policy has been such that they have banned crypto. They have made mutual funds equivalent to your fixed deposits. So it's as good. It's better to invest in fixed deposits rather than mutual funds. So this kind of each person doing their own fundraising. Count a family of 5, you will see that there's a sufficient amount of money that each person earns. So this kind of traditional fundraising that India does has made each unit very self-sufficient. And Jay, one very interesting fact is 28,000 billion tons of gold with Indian housewives.
Oh, wow. You have to marry carefully.
2,100 is the US gold reserve.
So, okay, so we have but what are the challenges, though? I always want to ask you about that. What are the challenges? I mean, just historically, I remember you got the caste system. I think that's been done away with, but maybe it has remnants. Yes. And you have the thing about women, how the men do not respect the women, and there's a fair amount sexual violence, and of course the poverty, as you mentioned. But what stands in the way of becoming not the fifth, but the fourth and the third and so forth largest economy in the world? What stands in the way?
No, projections are that we are on the way. On 2026, we are going to overtake Germany. 2030, going to overtake Japan. So it's on the card.
So what would you fix to make it even more easy?
More easy.
Would you fix, for example, would you fix the caste system?
We don't have a very prominent caste system in India right now, Jay. We had a traditional caste system, but that was based on work. But later on, as the developments happened in society, they started becoming more acute and more harmful just to benefit the mighty few. For them to manipulate their way into power, they used to use the caste system to manipulate the caste system rather than use the caste system. But now we don't have such a heavy caste system, and India moves modernity with traditionalism in a very nice way, Jay. As much as they become modern, you will never find them discarding their traditional ways in complete. They will never forget their roots. Somewhere they have a sense of belonging to their culture, to their tradition. I mean, it's inculcated, I don't know, mentally, spiritually, it's very strong. And even though, you will, if you speak to an Indian and you hurt him, one point will be there where he'll be like, I'm still proud of whatever India does. So that kind of pride helps the country to survive, civilization to survive.
Well, do you find any indication that it's deteriorating? A lot of countries have had a great culture, a great national identity, and then you have exchange with other countries, and you have adoption of systems from other countries, and next time you look, there's a deterioration. Does that happen in India? Do you worry about that, or is it rather just the other way around? That India adopts systems, and culture points from other countries and gets stronger in the process. In other words, what do you see in the future for the dynamic of India as pure Indian?
Yeah, Jay, right now what we are seeing, the success story of manufacturing India, manufacturing center in India, is a story which has built itself up through 2 decades. So now it's the beginning of the progress. It's not going to be like it's over right now. It's just begun right now. And we had wars, Jay. We had wars with our neighbors, Pakistan and China. We had wars between this success story. So we know that it has always had barriers which come in. We had embargoes put in for our nuclear tests. There have been so many impediments to the progress. And still coming out of this requires a lot of planning, motivation, and it's a straight line which India follows, even though there are a lot of big bats. Now you see Modi has brought in renewable energy. He did not keep India dependent on external COVID supplies. India became self-sufficient in COVID vaccines. That helped Indian economy so much. We never had to depend on outside doses.
Oh, in fact, you were very charitable. India was giving vaccines to developing countries all over the world for free or cheap.
So it was a change, till then, India was just thought about as a third world country, as taking aid. You saw a total twist under this. He is a man who thinks that India cannot bow down to international pressure. Till now, every government that came in always took population as they felt it was bad. It was not a good thing. He's the only one saying population can pressurize the external forces. Use your population for productivity. Use the working force, taxation in such a way that there is spending money available to the people. Inflation. Jay, he sided with Russia for crude oil. Today, India is one of the biggest suppliers of refined oil to Europe. We have it's around 360,000 barrels a day that we are supplying to Europe. Europe has bypassed Russia and taking refined oil from us, and we are buying crude oil from Russia. So via we are playing.
Let's look at a map of India, and you can tell me where the oil is, and you can tell me where the bright spots in the economy are. I mean, for example, I know that there's a place where everybody does technology. That's got to be important. Anyway, why don't you tell us where the bright spots in the economy are on that map?
There are a lot of, there are developing metro cities which have been coming in India, around 15 to 25 cities which have been put in, and rural cities, rural areas are being brought into the mainstream. So Mumbai is the commercial capital of India, Maharashtra, where I stay, and you have a good city in every state of India. So it's very diverse and spread out. So that's the reason why you don't have. It's not like in China, the coastal area is developed, rural area is left, and manufacturing hubs are just in the coast. India is pretty well spread.
I want to talk more about China. So there's this interesting kind of triangle. I think I saw in one article they called it the triangle. It's the Russia, India, and China. And the very interesting notion, and maybe it's happening true, is that when Russia gets close to China, that's a problem for China in dealing with India, because China wants to have good relations with India, but the closer it gets to Russia, the more its relations with India deteriorate. I saw an article about that. It's very interesting. So China is being careful on dealing with Russia because it doesn't want to offend India. As the triangle operating, there's nothing so complex as a triangle, right?
No, Jay. It's 180 degrees of madness. But you see, China, India, and Russia have formed this alliance, which is now playing the crude oil politics so well that Russia is selling crude oil to India, India selling refined oil to Europe, China supplying everything possible to Russia and standing steadfast with Russia. And so you have something that you have the largest manufacturing hub, the largest consumer, and oil production all together. So, and now it's a nice point that we can discuss further. De-dollarization is on the agenda. So this is happening once in a century. It was when the dollar came in previous century, halfway through, the dollar came in as the principal economy, the reserve economy of the world. These three are trying to go for de-dollarization with the BRICS. Now, this is going to be a changer.
Oh, sure, the reserve currency issue.
Yes.
And we have to follow that. I would like to have another discussion with you about that. That's Roopmati Khandekar. We're going to continue this discussion. We're going to talk about India's success, not only in the region with China, Russia, and geopolitical considerations, but also with the United States. And for that matter, Britain. Remember, the Prime Minister of Britain is Indian. So we're going to find out much more along the same track the next time we talk to Roopmati Khandekar. So stand by. We'll be back. Thanks a lot. Aloha.
Thank you so much for watching ThinkTech Hawaii. If you like what we do, please like us and click the subscribe button on YouTube and the follow button on Vimeo. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and donate to us at thinktechhawaii.com. Mahalo.